What's up, guys? It is IRGT85. Happy Wednesday, or whenever you're watching this video. But of course, we have some video game news to talk about. We have new game announcements, controversies around Joy-Cons, all sorts of fun stuff, including game delays. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. And we are going to start things off with Skyward Sword HD for the Nintendo Switch, because you know what? I'm really looking forward to this game because I think it's going to be an actually good game. Now, back in the day, Skyward Sword, of course, came out on the Nintendo Wii. I still own it, and it's the only mainline Legend of Zelda game that I've not completed because I just thought it was kind of clunky. There was a lot of things to dislike about the game, even though the game had a nice visual style, the story seemed interesting, the dungeons were fun enough. Just there was lots of things when it came to the gameplay that held the game back for me, mostly being the motion controls. But we've learned about a lot of quality of life improvements with this game, and we actually learned about another quality of life improvement yesterday from Nintendo, a free camera system in which you'll be able to control the camera completely and, look around and be able to see things, which you could not do on the Wii version of this game. And the more I sit here and think about this game, it's like, these quality of life improvements are actually really, really good because of the fact that, like I said, there was just so many problems with the Wii version of the game that sort of held the game back. Looking over the laundry list of what Nintendo has done to this game, I think it's kind of impressive. You of course have the game running in 60 frames per second and in HD, which it did not on the Wii. You have button controls instead of the mandatory motion controls. Lots of things when it comes to the saving of the game with autosave. You could speed through your text now. You could streamline item descriptions so that it's not sitting up there on the screen for a very long time. You could skip cutscenes. Fee, who was very annoying in the game and very intrusive and would sometimes give you solutions to puzzles even though you didn't want it, will no longer do things like that. The tutorial portion of the game is shortened, and now we have this free camera system. And I really think that these quality of life improvements are going to make for a much better experience. Now, reviews went out for this game today, and as I expected, it's actually scoring less than the Wii version of the game did. But to me, the Wii version of the game was overrated anyways and shouldn't have gotten those high scores. So I really feel like I'm going to super enjoy this game, and all these quality of life improvements, with the most recent one being the free camera system that Nintendo included in this game, really make it very attractive for me. Now, of course, you can have a hefty debate on the game itself and whether or not it's worth a $60 upgrade, especially if you played it a lot back on the Wii and already have experienced this game, and I could definitely understand that. But as someone who hasn't played the game fully all the way through because of the fact that they just didn't like the Wii motion controls, or for someone who has never played this game before, I honestly think it's going to sell very well. I think it's going to be a very popular game, and I'm really looking forward to playing this game. I think reviewers kind of will miss the mark with it, like I said, as reviews have gone out, as they're just going to sort of look at it as an old Legend of Zelda game, which I can completely understand. But for me, this is like a new experience, especially considering the fact that I haven't touched this game since it originally came out on the Nintendo Wii, and since I never finished it, I'm really looking forward to it. So this is definitely good news. They improved all of the things that were problematic in the original game, which is what Nintendo needs to do with things like this. Could they have added in additional content? I mean, I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't, but at the end of the day, I already have this game pre-ordered. I'm looking forward to picking it up on Friday, and I think this is good news when you look at the laundry list of all the quality of life improvements that they did to this game to make it a more modern game, essentially. Next up, another PlayStation 5 title that was scheduled to release in 2021 has been moved back to 2022. Joining the ranks of games like God of War Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7, we now have Ghostwire Tokyo being delayed until 2022, but I don't think this is a big surprise for a lot of people because this game, they showed off this game and we learned about this game, and then everything was pretty quiet since then. Now, this is being published by Bethesda, but the team behind the game has actually stated that they need additional time in order to work on the game, the usual stuff you hear from companies, and I think that's fine. It does sort of suck though, because I think the second half for PlayStation 5 owners is kind of bleak right now, and there's not a whole lot going on. Sure, you have games like Kena, which looks absolutely awesome, Deathloop, which I'm not sold on, and of course Horizon Forbidden West, which hopefully will come out in 2021, but beyond that, there's not very many exclusive titles. Now, like I said, Ghostwire Tokyo is an interesting looking game. I liked what we saw from it. It was was kind of confusing, honestly, but I like the visual aesthetic of the game. I thought the whole setting looked pretty cool, but the fact that we saw this game and then we heard nothing about it was definitely sort of troubling. Now, I have heard off of the record that this game is having some development problems. I don't know how deep those development problems are and how much they will impact the game, but definitely sort of unfortunate. You know, it's better to wait for a game. You know, a delayed game is okay, but a bad game is bad forever, whatever the hell that quote is, which isn't really true. But I do feel like in this case, some additional time will definitely help with this game, but it's definitely sort of sucks if you're a PlayStation 5 owner, because this is yet another PlayStation exclusive game that was supposed to come out in 2021 that is now coming out in 2022. Do you even remember Ghostwire Tokyo? Let me know in the comment section down below. The internet is a very fickle place, and sometimes people like things for just the meme purposes of it, I feel. You know, they don't genuinely like what they see. It's just kind of a funny meme, you know, kind of like, well, what Beyond Wonderworld ended up being. But this latest game that was just announced, I think people are taking it a bit too seriously, and it's definitely going to be that sort of meme game. And that is a game that was just announced yesterday, the Smash Brothers killer, essentially, with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Now, judging by the title of this game, you can pretty much tell what this is going to be. You have various Nickelodeon characters from like the past 3 decades, characters such as Reptar and characters from Rugrats and things of that nature, stuff that I grew up watching. There's newer stuff that I don't know anything about. You know, a lot of people online are hyped about it. They're like, oh, look at this character, he's so cool. And I'm just like, I don't even know what this show is from. I don't know what this show is about, because I was being a hoodlum teenager, but I definitely have nostalgia for a lot of older Nickelodeon stuff like Doug and Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy, you know, cool shows like that. But yeah, this is essentially a big fighting game with various Nickelodeon characters that honestly looks a lot like Smash Brothers. You have different characters on different maps and you're trying to fight each other, and you know, it doesn't look all that bad, honestly. There's a character progression system that actually has you unlocking new moves for the characters the more you play as them as well, so that's something a little bit different than something that Smash Brothers offers. There's actually rollback netcode and a lot of things for the online portion of this game that a lot of people are excited about. So people are looking at it like it's going to be the biggest and best game in the world, but I do have some concerns because the publisher of this game is a company called GameMill. Now, if you're unfamiliar with GameMill, let's take a look at their list of games. We have Cobra Kai, G.I. Joe, Operation Blackout, which was a very mediocre game, Nickelodeon Kart Racers, Street Outlaws, Big Buck Hunter Arcade, Monster Jam, Crush It, American Ninja Warrior, Goosebumps the game. Like, these aren't exactly super high quality games or anything like that. And this is kind of what GameMill is. They are a company that just takes licenses and then makes sort of mediocre games with it. So am I willing to say that this is going to be the Super Smash Brothers killer like some people are saying online? Like, no, and I'm not even a huge Super Smash Brothers fan, but it's just like their pedigree of games doesn't really lead me to believe that this is going to be an absolutely top-notch game. Now, on the plus side, a lot of GameMill games are usually budget titles around the $40 price point, so I think that would definitely help this game out a lot. You know, Nickelodeon Kart Racers and Kart Racers 2, I believe, were both $40 games, and they didn't really exactly crush the whole Mario Kart aesthetic and, you know, make Mario Kart obsolete like people are saying this is going to do with Smash Brothers. But I feel like the memes are definitely there, and this is a game that's actually going to benefit from sort of meme culture and things like that, because people are thinking of like dream matchups to put in this game. And, you know, I do have some sort of interest in it. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the roster of characters. Hopefully there is some representation of Doug, like, you know, Roger Klotz, maybe Chalky. You know, Chalky was all right. Doug Skeeter, Pork Chop, you know, Mr. Dink. Like, there's a lot of good characters to do there. So, and finally, last week on the channel, we might have talked about something called the Nintendo Switch OLED model. I'm not sure if we actually covered it on this channel or not. You know, my memory is a little bit hazy or something like that. But this is obviously the new Nintendo Switch system that's coming out in this October 8th to be exact, and we learned a lot about this system. Of course, there were some disappointments with the system. Honestly, there was a lot more disappointments than sort of things that people were hyped about with the system, which I could completely understand, especially if you do not play your Nintendo Switch in handheld mode. But one thing that was very curious about the situation was, of course, the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, because let's be realistic, Joy-Con drift exists. I've gone through at least 3 pairs of Joy-Cons, almost to the point of now I don't even use Joy-Cons anymore. I just use my Pro Controller whenever I play my Nintendo Switch. Now, there was a lot of questions and whatnot about whether or not the Nintendo Switch OLED was going to use these same Joy-Cons as the original Nintendo Switch did. Since then, we have learned through various statements by Nintendo that yes, these will be the original Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, Joy-Cons that are currently available on the marketplace, the exact same ones that are prone to Joy-Con drift, so on and so forth. And a lot of people are upset about this because obviously Joy-Con drift is an expensive problem as well. You know, Joy-Cons aren't exactly cheap. It's not like something that you could just go out there and buy a set of Joy-Cons and not expect to spend more money. Like, Joy-Cons are more expensive than most video games on the marketplace, even if you pick up some on sale or something like that. So now the question remains as to why Nintendo decided to use the same Joy-Cons with the Nintendo Switch OLED model. And a lot of people are sort of equating it to Nintendo just being lazy and just sort of half-assing things like they sometimes do in their business model. And at first I was kind of that train of thought, but I think I actually know why Nintendo is not addressing the Joy-Con drift problem with the Nintendo Switch OLED model by implementing new Joy-Cons. And it's not because of the ergonomics of the system, it's not because of the design of the system, it simply comes down to the fact that right now Nintendo has many class action lawsuits about Joy-Con drift. And the whole thing about these class action lawsuits is I don't expect these to actually go to court. What I expect to happen is Nintendo is just going to essentially drag their feet with this, make whoever is making these class action lawsuits run out of money to the point of where the case is just dismissed or potentially settled out of court. Now, if Nintendo implemented new Joy-Cons into the Nintendo Switch OLED, obviously these Joy-Cons would look exactly the same as the current Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons because of the ergonomic design of the system. It's essentially the same as a current Nintendo Switch model, just the bezel is removed for it to have a 7-inch screen. So if you're having to implement new Joy-Cons into this is kind of something that they could use in these court cases to potentially speed things up because, hey, Nintendo fixed the Joy-Con drift on these new Joy-Cons. They implemented new Joy-Cons on the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Thus, they are saying that yes, there is a problem with the current Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons on the marketplace, thus making it very shady for Nintendo when it came to this whole legal situation. So that is pretty much the reason why this is happening. You know, Nintendo's not going to come out and say that or anything like that, but I honestly believe that that is the reason why we have seen the same Joy-Cons on the marketplace since the release of the Nintendo Switch model, and they've never changed them up or anything like that. All of the technology, even on the Nintendo Switch Lite, is the exact same thing, and the Nintendo Switch OLED model also has the same Joy-Cons. It really comes down to that whole legal thing that's pending for Nintendo right now, because it would just sort of be an admission of guilt. Now, I could be completely wrong on this, but I think the more you think about it, the more it sort of makes sense that this is the reason why Nintendo isn't addressing the Joy-Con problem. Now, as a consumer, should that matter to you? It's like, well, hell no. Like, Nintendo should have addressed this long before this got to the point of this, and they should have implemented new technology in these Joy-Cons, but it is what it is at the end of the day, and I guess you could just use your Pro Controller on your Nintendo Switch OLED model like I do, because I'm a sophisticated and mature adult. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. Skyward Sword, Pass or Smash, Ghostwire Tokyo, are you surprised? Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, what the hell is this? What the hell is this nonsense? And of course the Nintendo Switch OLED Joy-Con situation. Do you think that it is because of the legal situation? Because I definitely do. And as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.